Hi, my brother. Thank you very much for the questions that you posed. To start off with, I don't think anyone at the moment can give a figure, even if an approximate one, as to how much the general public who are living off as vendors have lost, in the streets, or even how much the government has lost in revenue because of this currency change and the confusion that has surrounded it. As we all know that since Saturday or Friday, in fact, since Friday, when this new currency, the ZIG, was announced by the government, and the subsequent changes, particularly as far as the banks and money transfer, Eco Cash and so forth, had to transfer or to convert the Zim dollar balances into the ZIG, as well as vendors on the street who are already refusing, and supermarkets already refusing even cash, Zimbabwe dollar cash. It's very difficult to come up with a figure because it's too early. There has to be a real process of collecting that data. But from these people, the supermarkets, the vendors, and everyone, the government itself, toll gates. During this weekend on Friday, I traveled to Rusape, only returning yesterday. Only returning on Sunday. So going there, we could swipe in Zim dollars, but coming back, the swipe was no longer working because it's in Zim dollar. So obviously, Sinara lost a bit of revenue, but we can't say they lost really much because those who wanted to travel would then have to use US dollars. So to answer your question in short, it's very difficult to put a figure, even an approximate one. We can just put it in the millions. That would be a safe bet, and say in the millions of US dollars equivalent, because what many have lost are the Zim dollar transactions. And let's also remember that already 90% plus of all transactions in Zimbabwe are already said to be in the US dollar. So we have to always remember that when we want to come up with these calculations. If we have a country where over 90% of transactions are already in US dollars, that means even during this period that the people were failing to transact in the local currency, very few people, maybe 10% or less, really faced serious inconveniences. The economy of Zimbabwe has already dollarized. So if a country is not going to be severely crippled because of 3 days or 4 days where its own currency is not working and business continues more or less as usual, it means people didn't really feel the pain. So government, vendors, anyone else, I don't think they really lost much because most of the transactions were already in US dollars. So even with the coming in of the ZIG, I honestly do not see much excitement in that, because already most of the transactions are in US dollars. So even if the ZIG finally becomes operational, whether through electronic money or at the end of the month when we have the actual notes and coins, the economy of Zimbabwe has already dollarized, and it's very nearly impossible for anyone to now reject those US dollars and say, I want to give this ZIG a try. We are already in US dollar mode. We've been in US dollar mode since 2009. And that's not going to change. Now, that is one of the reasons why even the Zim dollar that they've dumped failed to take off. It's because of confidence issues. Confidence issues, not only in the lack of confidence in the local currency. That's a huge factor. People do not have confidence in the local factor. But that's not only that. They have too much confidence in the US dollar because we know how stable it is. We know how much value it can store for a very long time. You can keep $100 in your home for the next 50 years and it will still be more or less worth what it is today. So those two forces work against any currency that can be brought into Zimbabwe. People will still prefer the US dollar. So the ZIG Yeah, we'll see how it turns out, but it will not. I do not believe it will make much of an impact for Zimbabwe. As far as this introduction of the Zimbabwe gold currency and how it should have been done, I believe the government should stop this command economics. They should stop ambushing the people of Zimbabwe with all these policies that they come up with. They should know that consultation is the best policy. Already in my previous voice note, I did mention that the issue of confidence, of trust, is the main factor driving the abandonment of the Zimbabwean dollar, because the rate of a currency is determined simply by forces of supply and demand. If the demand for the US dollar is higher, is far much greater than the demand for the local currency, then the local currency becomes weaker, whilst the United States dollar becomes more expensive, becomes stronger. So it's about trust. So how do you build that trust? It's complex. There are so many things involved, but one of those things that are involved is to consult. The government should have gone to the ordinary people. They delayed this monetary policy statement for a couple of weeks. People were, where is the monetary policy statement? It's coming. We're consulting. But who were they consulting? They were consulting business, possibly. We don't even know if business was actually consulted, and other people, institutions that they may consider stakeholders. But the main stakeholders in Zimbabwe is the average citizen, you and me, my mother, my son, my wife, my neighbor. Those are the people who determine whether this new currency or whatever currency is brought into Zimbabwe, whether it will succeed or not. It's us, the ordinary. It's us who will receive it, embrace it, and use it, and love it, or it's us who reject it. And as soon as it comes, and it's given to us, we change it into US dollars. So if the government continues in this thing that they do not consult us, they should have introduced this, told us way back that this is what they were just talking about. Structured currency. We didn't have a clue what they were talking about. They should have now gone on before even announcing it formally on Friday during the monetary policy statement. Before that, a month before that, they should have already started educating the people that, no, we are going to be introducing this structured currency. This is what a structured currency is about. This is how this new currency of ours will work. This is why we believe this new currency will be a success than the previous currencies, because maybe we're going to back it with gold. We are going to back it with other minerals. We're going to do, how does that work? So that people understand. Just saying that it's gold backed, a lot of people don't even understand what that means. Take that time to explain what does it mean when a currency is gold backed or minerals backed. What does it mean so how does that make it strong and reliable and a good store of value? They should have taken that time preparing the nation of Zimbabwe for the eventual announcement of the new currency. So when the new currency came on Friday, every one of us should have already been talking about ZIG. We should have already been singing that it's gold backed and this, so that we embrace it before it's even introduced. But with this chaos that surrounded the new currency, it has destroyed even the little confidence that people had. You see, like what I said, I went to Rusape on Friday and came back on Sunday. My trip had been based on swiping in Zim dollars at every toll gate. That's how I had budgeted it. I'm going to Rusape, swipe. On my way back home on Sunday, swipe. But when I was there on Saturday, I hear my swipe, Zimbabwe dollar swipe doesn't work anymore. That's not a good start. So when I was coming back on Sunday, I had to pay cash, US dollars. So already, that's a very bad start. We were ambushed. And people then say, they already have that negative perception of this new currency. So that the way that everything was handled destroys confidence. destroys, makes people question why were we ambushed? It would be like this new ZIG was forced upon us. We don't even know how the conversions are going to work in our bank accounts. Are we going to lose our monies like what happened in 2000 and in 2019, are we suddenly our balance is going to be wiped out? How are the calculations? If you look at the calculations right now, how to calculate your Zim dollar balances and convert them into US into the ZIG and so forth, and how to convert the ZIG into the US dollar, it's a whole convoluted process, which even an ordinary citizen will find very hard, nearly impossible to understand. You see, so already people don't even understand. Okay, if I had 1 million Zimbabwean dollars in my account, how much should I have now in ZIG? So the whole confusion and everything, these things should have been taught the people of Zimbabwe before the announcement was made. So already people, their money is stuck in the bank, they cannot use it, ambush. And even when the conversion actually takes place, they don't know. How much am I expecting to see in ZIG when my bond or my Zimbabwe dollars have been converted? So all these things are going to work against the government or the country itself in people accepting and embracing this new currency, which in turn will mean that the demand for the ZIG will be low and people will still run. Right now, people are running even more to the US dollar because they are not able to transact in the bond. They're not able to transact in the ZIG. We don't even have the notes yet. We don't even have the coins. So more and more people are now going for the US dollar because effectively, right now from Friday, effectively the only currency that is working in Zimbabwe is the US dollar. So more and more people are being pushed to the US dollar. We even see the government right now, Potras was announced that is going to peg its tariffs, Potras. It's tariffs in US dollars. They're not saying, we've got this new currency, let's show confidence in this new currency, which we believe is gold bagged, so it's going to be stable. So, hey, Zesa, Zinara, Potras, everyone else, even the passports, let's peg now our prices or our tariffs or our fees in the ZIG. They're not doing that. They are continuing to peg these fees in US dollars, which shows that they don't even have confidence in this new currency before it has even hit the streets. So that's a big problem.